All right, this week on the absolute last episode of the big show for 2021, it's the final week of 2021, and we discuss the worst movies of the year. Frequent guests and colleagues, Lonita Cook and Emmanuel, I always love saying this, Noisette, join us to talk about their I don't know, not their favorite films of the year, but their worst movies of the year and performances. Find out which one of these stanky dank films, which is basically what they are, made the list, and which ones that you expect may not be on here. We'll have all that and more on episode 485, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode. And actually, not just the latest episode, but the final episode of 2021, which happens to be my favorite show when we start savaging like these super stinky movies that we've been forced to watch during this year. And I've invited two of my favorite new guests who are going to become current guests. The lovely Lonita Cook, coming straight out of KC.
Hey, how you doing?
And my man, E, I'll sit you call him E. He's Emmanuel, E-Man, whatever you want, man. That is E coming straight out the Shy. What's going on, brother?
Hey. Thank you so much for having me on again.
And of course, riding shotgun is the man with the plan and usually has a Bible in his hand. That is Charles Kirkland Jr., the man that I refer to as CKJ. What's going on, man?
Every day is a great day to be, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, bro. So we're going to get started. But before we get started, man, let me explain the rules of what we're doing, because it is a very strange year. I just went through this explanation on the last show. We'll do this one again, that unlike a traditional film year that starts January the 1st, it ends December the 31st, we're in the middle of a pandemic. The Oscars were pushed back, I think, until the end of April. So the film year was pushed back to the end of February, which gave us like a 9-10 month film year. It's very strange. So like I talked about on the other show, there was a movie that I thought should have made the list for this year, but it actually counts as a last year movie, despite the fact that it came out this year. So I tried to be mindful when I was looking at films to try to figure out this kind of cutoff point in order to do this. So with each person here, basically what we have is that we'll have your top 5 lists, or actually in this case, we should call it the bottom 5 list, and then the honorable mentions. And to kick things off, I'm going to go first because I'll kind of establish the foundation, and you're like, oh, that's what Tim is going for right there. All right, so let's start off with my honorable mentions, the worst films of the year. The star of this film was so bad that she's got a film in the honorable mention, and then she's got one in the bottom 5. That's how talented you are. And the first one I will start with is a film that I saw at the Toronto Film Fest, this TIFF, called The Starling, which was a Netflix movie. Melissa McCarthy. This one is really not good. Story about a woman who literally is gardening, and one day a bird comes along and just knocks her upside the head. She's out there with a helmet on. There's some loss that's involved, with her, not necessarily loss, but like some situations with her husband. All the pacing of this film, the storytelling, there's some good stuff in here, but it's like having a Porsche, right? And then somebody takes a sledgehammer, smashes the Porsche up. There's some good stuff underneath all that stuff, but it's just a bad Porsche. And that's what, and maybe that's a bad analogy, but The Starling is really not a good film. And when I watched it, I was like, There was another film, as a side note, Charles and I'm talking to Charles specifically, that I saw at TIFF that I really wanted to put on this list, but it didn't get distribution this year, because had it would have probably bumped the Starling off and I would have exchanged places. And as I did in the show, since it didn't come out, I don't want to expend energy talking about it now because I'm sure I'll talk about it next year when it comes out. But The Starling is my number one honorable mention. There's Tom and Jerry, Coming to America, Bad Trip, and I'll end with Stillwater. Matt Damon is a good actor, a guy I've met. This one ain't the one, Pippin. Stop it. It's not a good movie. And you should have recognized this when you were making it. You know, like I wonder, do actors ever do this? Like when they shoot a scene, right? And they come over and they'd be like, can I check out the dailies? Like, sure. And they look at it and they go, that's not really good. I've been looking at the dailies the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know how you're gonna make a good movie out of this. And the answer is he couldn't. He didn't. So those are my top 5 or my bottom 5. And so Lonita's got that look on her face. Charles, I'm going to jump over you and E, and I'm going to lead off with her. Did you have any honorable mentions that you wanted to start with before we got to the bottom 5?
Well, I just need to, one, make sure I understand the rules, because if I understand the rules, then my honorable mention would have to be Vanquish with Morgan Freeman.
Wow. Oh, yeah. So wait a minute, is that an honorable mention or is that a part of your top 5? I mean, your bottom 5?
That's an honorable mention. It should.
Okay, yeah, yes. It's not good. I saw a little bit of that too.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna say my honorable mentions happen to be movies that I didn't have anything to say about besides wow, you know. So they're just, you know, my bottom 5. I have some conversation to go with them, have some thoughts, right? Some ruminations, right? But my honorable mentions are just, yeah, nah. So Vanquish would be one of those. Let's see, Hitman, Bodyguard's Wife. Did that make the weird cut?
So you didn't like that one, huh?
I thought there were some fun things about it, and I thought that Salma Hayek looked good. I was like, where is that fountain of youth? But for the most part, it didn't live up to my expectations based on the first movie. No.
Okay. What else did you?
It was basically a one-trick pony. They just kept riding that same horse, and it didn't work. Yeah.
There it is, right there. Same horse.
just shouts these movies out. So, did you have any other movies on your honorable mention?
My honorable mention. Okay, so you know me. I don't like to say I don't like family films because I think family films are where it's at. But The Boss Baby, Family Business, I didn't. Not that one. I was not on board. It was interesting, the psychedelic. Why did you want to go that route? That whole psychedelic scene was very like but other than that, I was not on board, and usually I'm in on the family films. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions. But I also had a question for you. So on this Starling, what was in the description, the blurb for that movie that made you want to see it in the first place?
Oh, I could easily answer that. You know, you're at a film festival, right? And especially when you're at TIFF, you essentially are looking for movies that have folks who are recognizable, right? So when you're trying to make a determination of what you want to watch, and the fact that this was a Netflix film, it had Melissa McCarthy. I blocked out the name of the husband, but it's somebody you probably know. So I'm like, man, I'll check it out. And when I watched it, I was like, yeah. And the fact that you haven't heard anything, like Netflix sent you all sorts of stuff over the holiday. They sent all of us stuff. Did you get any Starling gear at the crib? No. Just saying. So there's a reason why the Starling and the other film that I really want to throw the title of it out there, but I don't want to poison it before it comes out. But just to say, me and my lady watched that movie, and you know, it was like a 1970s. Like, don't go up there. Why are you doing that? You are stupid. So it was not good at all, man. It should have called that movie Karen. That's what they should have called it. So, and that gives you an idea where we were going with that story. But so I said all of that. Before we throw it to E, the films that Lonita brought up on her honorable mentions, and the one I talked about are the answer to people who walk up to you and go, "Oh snap, you a film critic? That is a cool job." No, it ain't. When you got to watch some of this stuff, it is not at all. E, what did you have on your honorable mentions this year for the worst films of the year?
First of all, let me just piggyback off of that. That is absolute facts. Like, I cannot tell people how much of a grievance to my soul it is to watch bad movies. It irks every core of my being when that happens. So for me, so like when you were talking about the Starling, it didn't even register on my radar because I had like this spidey sense for bad movies, and I'm like, nah, I'm not even gonna bother with it just because of that sense, right? So for me, when I do come across a bad movie, it's usually because it does have star potential, or it does have like other ingredients, good production, director, whatever. And then I just get bamboozled, into a bad movie. So I only have 3 for my honorable mentions. You already mentioned one of them earlier, Tim, with Coming to America. I thought it was a cheap, generic remake or a sequel. I'm just not a slapstick, goofy comedy kind of guy. I understand it works for other people, but I just think this missed more than it hit. Outside of that, I also had The Conjuring. What was that, part 3? The Devil Made Me Do It, or something like that. It was just a terrible, terrible sequel to 2 good, previous films. And this was just a representation of what happens when James Wan is not in the director's chair. It was just very generic, very predictable. Jump scares were barely even like terrifying. And it was just a bad movie. It was just, they just put it through the machine of like, hey, here's check off all the horror tropes, and there you go. So I didn't care for that. And the last one I have to give is for honorable mention is Spiral with Chris Rock. It was just not good. I mean, he came in as a producer on this. He thought that, what these Saw movies are missing? It's comedy. No, it's not. They never missed comedy. That's not even what made them popular. Like, it was just such a huge miss. It was predictable. It was flat. Even the ending was not. It was bad. It was just bad. So those are my top 3 for honorable mentions.
All right, good job, E. That was funny. Like, that's not what it was missing.
Ever.
Charles Kirkland, what did you got, man? Leading off honorable mentions.
Well,
Am I off, or is Charles off? Can you guys hear me? Oh, there you go.
I can hear you, Tim. Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
I can hear
All
you.
right.
So go ahead, do you.
All right, because of the rules of this episode, I have to say, as one of my, and Lonita already mentioned it, but Vanquish has to be in one of the worst movies of the year. Now, because of the way you formatted the show, it came out, I think it was February, but we didn't have a worst episode last year until the end of the year. So it kind of falls in that nebulous zone where, I mean, I have to say this was a bad movie, but it doesn't really qualify under the rules.
No. That rule we should suspend for bad movies. If you a bad movie, you good all year long on a bad movie.
But yeah, Morgan Freeman. This is one of those times when you're like, man, is Morgan Freeman getting way too old to act? I mean, this was a bad film, and he had no business being there. And I know they're trying to pump up Ruby Rose as some new action star ever since she was in John Wick, but she has no personality to me, and the movie was horrible. And it has to be mentioned. It has to be mentioned at least twice now, that how bad Vanquish was. Now, wow. I also put Eternals on as one of the worst movies of the year, because this, I mean, Marvel is pretty good about what they do, but this time they really crapped the bed with this one. They gave us a story that nobody knew, nobody understood. It wasn't even right from the comic books, and they just force-fed 3 hours of dialogue. It felt like Zack Snyder was even saying, "What is this going? What is this? This is terrible." So, I mean, Eternals for me, is on the honorable mentions. Not one of the worst, but definitely up there as one of the worst of the year for me.
All right, all right. Now we get into the fun part of the show. Now we're gonna start looking at the worst movies of the year. I will lead off. I told you I enjoy this show for this particular reason about what I'm about to do right now. Leading off, and this is in no particular order, coming in on my list is a film, and I'll just throw out the description. Two childhood friends reunite as unlikely crime-fighting superhero duos when one creates a formula that gives ordinary people superpowers. My girl, Melissa McCarthy, again, she made 2 out of the top 10, along with Octavia, you should have knew better, Spencer, in Thunder Force, which should have been called Thunder Force. This movie, I remember watching it, and I was halfway through it. I went, what in the hell am I watching? None of this doesn't make any sense. The story is stupid. It's like they're taking a paycheck. Like, what am I watching? Thunder Force is this year's Coffee and Kareem. That's a joke if you're a film critic. Coffee and Kareem was this movie from 2020. This is this year's Coffee and Kareem. Just a bad idea, which shows me sometimes that my favorite streaming service, Netflix, sometimes overextends themselves when you have these sorts of stories, right? And I didn't even talk about White Tiger, which was another one that I hated early this year, but that was just a shot across the bow, like, stop it, Netflix. Do what you do best. You don't have to give us everything. Next up on my list is another film from Netflix with a title better than the movie. I'll just say that. Gunpowder Milkshake is a story of a group of women who have a young assassin. Gunpowder Milkshake as a title, beautiful. I think about a milkshake, like, is that a special flavor, gunpowder? You know, it might be tasty. It made the idea of the title is way better than the movie itself. And Angela Bassett, I hope you and Courtney took a vacation, because I know they paid you for that. Just like they did a couple of years ago with Otherhood. The Angela Bassett and those Netflix movies, they're just not connected. And
I like that movie.
Is another example of one that's just not connected. Next up on my list is a movie that featured, I want to say arguably, not just the worst title, worst name for a film character, but one of the most offensive names for a film character was friggin' the man can't even get a name. He got the model of a car. Oh, what was his character's called? A mid-size
sedan.
Oh. Man, M. Night Shyamalan is really, really mad at Black people right now. And he's so mad that he is illustrating it in some of the most kind of passive-aggressive ways. Old as a movie. Now, again, if you've watched me for over the course of 480 episodes, you know how I feel about M. Night Shyamalan, that he's a man that made 1, maybe 2 really good films, and then he's been relying on twists the rest of his life. And I'm all chubby check it out. The twists just don't work for me anymore. It's old school. You need to let it go. Old. Exactly the title. It was an old concept. Let it go. He tried to warn you going in. It's old. And y'all was like, new movie. No, it's an old concept. Redone again. And it didn't work. Next up on my list is, how do I explain this one? 2 friends who live next door decide that they will go into business, and there's money laundering, there's all kind of crap in Queen Pins. A movie that, again, these are the sorts of movies, honestly, and all joking aside, Charles knows, as I've told E and Lonita might not know this, these are the movies are the reason why I don't write film reviews anymore, and that I just do all my film reviews by, online or just like audio. Because how many times, how many different ways over 3 decades, it'll be 30 years for me next year, how many times can I say something is bad? I've run out of adjectives, I've run out of superlatives, I've run out of every different way to explain how bad and benign that Queen Pins is. It doesn't work. You had some comedy relief in there with what's his name, Vince Vaughn and Paul Walter Hauser. But man, this is Kristen Bell. No, your agent. Who are your agents that are giving you these projects? These are not good projects. And last but not least, and I'll wrap this up, Charles Kirkland's favorite movie, a film that we saw at the Middleburg Film Fest that was so bad that the next day we were coming to the next day of films and people were still talking about how bad this movie from the night before was. The image of Simon Rex running down the street, coming straight toward us, butt naked with his jump swinging in Red Rocket. Oh my God. This movie, man, bruh, that was, I don't, people have said, well, Simon Rex, he was pretty good. He's much better than the film. Well, first of all, he plays a poor, broke down porn star who spends the majority of his film hustling people. He has no ambition. He has no job. And then to top it off, he spends the other half of the film trying to seduce a 17-year-old and bring her into porn. And I'm sitting there going, word. Like, not only is he somebody I can...
She's only 16. She's only 16.
Not only is he somebody that I can't root for, I just think that the character is despicable, the subject matter is despicable, and the fact that he might have been good at doing it, like, come on, man. You can put this lipstick on a pig for me, which is what Red Rocket was. This movie is not good. Don't waste your time. And it's not even about your money. Just don't waste your time. So those are my top 5. Lonita, I will go to you. I have aired out Midsize Sedan and some of the things that I wanted to say. Sister, what do you have for your worst 5 movies of the year?
Well, before I get into my low 5, my bottom 5, I want to say I actually like the Melissa McCarthy movie. I went out and got myself some Old Bay Spice after I saw that. Hold up.
Leave it to Lonita. She always comes with her own spin. Boy, let me tell you.
That Lonita will find one film on my worst list and be like, "Nah, I like that movie. You be tripping." Okay. What's this?
I said, all right.
You be the judge. Go ahead, Lonita.
All right. So I actually have, I think, a controversial title as my number 5. And it's respect. I'm going to have to say that Aretha Franklin is a goddess in the R&B, the gospel, pop, all the industries. And I don't think that using a superhero format to tell her story did it any justice. I wanted to see more of who that woman was. I think they went too far in protecting her. If I'm gonna get a biopic, like, let me have it. And at the height of her career, there was nobody who could touch her vocally. And Jennifer Hudson, though she has a special voice, I wanted her to lip sync rather than sing. I would have preferred to hear Aretha singing. And so for me, respect could have been handled differently. It should have been handled differently. There should have been some reveals. She said she was going to take it to the grave, who the father of her kids are, and I respect that. But there were other things, the ways that her participation in imbibing her alcoholism and all these things. She was too protected in this movie from all of those things and how it affected her family, how it affected her relationship with those children, all of those things. And so it was disappointing. It felt far too empty for me. So I left there like, no, thank you. My number 4 is a documentary, and it's kind of related to one of my number 1 bottom 5, but A Glitch in the Matrix. Did you guys see this?
I did not. Thank you for sacrificing yourself and doing that for us.
Yeah, so I watched The Glitch in the Matrix, and the problem that I have with the movie is that, one, it kind of leads you to believe that they have some secret understanding of what the Matrix is, and so you're like, yo, they've been investigating since 1999. Yo, they about to tell us what the Matrix really is. And you go in, and it's all these experts talking about, simulacra, which is great, but none of the experts are Black. The only Black person in the movie is the case where the young man murdered his parents because of his obsession with the Matrix. And for me, I thought, yo, the racial dynamics in this movie are not okay for me. So I did not like the bamboozling. That was a good word we used earlier. I didn't like the bamboozling to get me in on the documentary, and then I didn't like how it was set up. So number 4 on my bottom 5. My number 3 is gonna be The King's Man.
Ooh, wow, that's good.
Okay, all right.
Tell me why this one didn't work and why it was one of the worst movies of the year.
Did you see it?
I did.
You did? Okay. So I love Ralph Fiennes. He is beautiful, but I don't think he was properly cast in this particular role. I like the young man, what's his name? Harris, what's his last name? That plays his son. But it just was a regular story about a father-son who, the son wants something that the father doesn't want him to have in his life, and the son doesn't listen, and then the son pays the price. And it was all this hoopla, and by hoopla I mean putting that story in the King's Man franchise. It was unnecessary. Now, I didn't read the comics. Is that a part of the comic? But it just seemed outside of what the first movie
was. Dickinson. Harris Dickinson.
Harris Dickinson. He's good in the movie. He looked good in the movie. Come on now. But the action is lacking. That first movie was so smart. It was so cheeky. It was so inventive. It made me go, what? I saw it multiple times and had Samuel L. Jackson. It just had like this, it was like just a little bit crazy. This one was just a regular movie that, some people got blued up, and I mean, it didn't live, it was like, it didn't live up to it. And so it was not just, yeah, it wasn't just bad, it was disappointing. So that's why it's my number 3. Okay.
Gotcha. 2 to go.
2 to go. So I got to ask you, does this fit? Because it came out, I believe, in April, but Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, it fits.
Oh, it fits.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have to explain. I think everybody knows why Mortal Kombat is bad. This one was, I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand the worst part about it for me, though, that I will say is I didn't understand why you would forsake your central audience. Your central audience is going to be kids. And with all your F-bombs and all your heads that's getting cut off, and it's like, children can't watch this. So you want me to sit through this by myself? No, thank you. So I was very mad at that business decision, right? Your mama and your daddy gonna come see it with their children.
I'm just gonna say Mortal Kombat was never for kids.
No, it was. I was gonna say if your children are playing Mortal Kombat, you're a bad parent.
Well, they call me a bad parent. I'll walk through and be like, finish him.
All right, so watch this. What's this last one? I can't wait. What ended up number one on your list?
Don't kill me, okay? But it's Matrix Resurrection, number one.
I'm not killing you. I'm just saying I always love. Okay, and explain to us why.
Okay, so for me, the first movie, I took it very serious. A friend of mine said, "Hey, you want to come watch The Matrix?" I said, "What's that? You ain't never seen The Matrix? No, come on, girl." I went over there, watched The Matrix. I said, "Can I borrow this Blockbuster video from you?" I took it home and watched it 31 times. Okay, I watched it 31 times in a row. That's how much I love the original Matrix. The sequels were like, man, I was with the rest of the world. I was like, man. But what I really appreciated about the first one is how it gave us these ideas about where we are in the universe in very digestible ways. It raised a question and let us think about it. Right? And it was so many things. It's about race, it's about religion, it's about class, it's about all this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's about everything. It's about everything. And this one tries to do the same thing, but it beats you over the head. But instead of doing it with the Matrix, it tries to do it with the binary, the gender issue, which is, a great conversation to have, but use the same subtlety that was employed in the first film. Now, at the same time, when they are, trying to give voice to the women and to the transgender people in this movie, they're taking away the voice from the men, right? And I don't think that's okay. I don't think a feminist approach should be trying to inherit the patriarchy. If you're going to dismantle it, right? But that's not what this brand of feminism is. It's trying to inherit the patriarchy, and I'm against that. But the major thing that made me leave and go, oh my gosh, what did I just watch? Was they took away the narrative purpose from Morpheus to find and cultivate the one, and they gave it to this woman. And I thought, how dare you do this? And they turned him into a sharper image toy. I said, why is this happening? So the Matrix Resurrection was a complete destruction. It wasn't even a dismantle, it was a destruction of that original movie, but it's also a destruction of what made it beautiful in terms of what Morpheus brought to the table. But wow. I will say the only thing that I liked is that it kind of says that the new generation, they all ciphered.
Wow. Look, bro.
It's incredible because when I came out of seeing the movie, I felt the exact same way. I called Tim up and I was like, look, they've destroyed the franchise here. By this whole recreation that they're doing, it just does not work. And I was very upset as well coming out of that film.
I was mad
with all of y'all. Like, that movie was such a disappointment. And Lonita, I was with you. I watched the first movie multiple times. I could repeat lines, quote them easily. Second one, I didn't even have that big of a problem with it. I know the CGI was wonky, but I liked the ambition with it. Third one was a little problematic, but I love Neo's journey and stuff. But my God, did they butcher this last one? Oh, man.
I went out and bought a surround sound system for my house because of The Matrix. Because I wanted to hear all those special effects, with the bullets going around and everything, and I just had to.
Wow, you're gonna have to follow that, man, because
I can't follow that.
She crushed mine. I took a more comedic approach because I just love to really butcher these movies. Give us your bottom five, man. Let's hear what you got.
All right. I don't know if this qualifies or not, but I'm going to put it up here mainly because of the disappointment factor. And I'm going to kick it off with The Little Things with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, it's technically last year, but like I said earlier,
it was 2021, but I get it. It's just, for me, it bothered me that there was so much talent in this movie and it just did not deliver. I mean, the writing was so subpar. This movie wanted to be 7 so bad, but it just could not do it. And I mean, even the mystery that they tried to, build up was like nothing. It was like y'all was just there, and the themes, they fell apart. They just hung. The themes were there, but they never really dug deep into them. And it was just a lackluster film. I said that this was easily Denzel Washington's worst film ever. Like, performance is not a problem, but as a film, this was definitely at the bottom for me. It was just too disappointing. But I would probably move up. Gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't even look at like the dates. I don't know if Malignant counts. That
Everything counts.
Does that count or no?
Everything counts.
Okay, everything.
Yes.
Okay. So Malignant was a problem for me because I am a huge James Wan stan. Like, I followed him from the very beginning, before Saw, so for me, I've always carried a great level of respect with how he approaches horror, especially. Like, he can go do the Aquamans and the Fast and Furious movies and, whatever. But when it comes to horror, that's his bread and butter. And this movie completely dropped the ball. I mean, I get that he might have been trying to tap into the Italian horror genre and all that, but this thing was like, it was overacted. The writing was atrocious. Now that final scene was kind of cool. The little plot twist was nice, but outside of that, you had 90% of the movie being terrible. So for me, it was just such a vast departure from his immense talent for someone who is so innovative to give us something so unoriginal and so stale. I was just sitting here like, you can't tell me James Wan did this. Like, no, he got some other rookie director to make this movie and he just put his name on there, right? Like, tell me that's what happened. So Malignant.
Nope.
Huh? What'd you say, Charles?
I said nope.
Oh, right. So that movie was just so depressing to see great talent just be, I don't know, just miss the mark so badly. The next one I'll probably go into is Infinite. I don't even know if y'all seen that. That was the Mark Wahlberg
Unfortunately, I did.
movie.
Yes, I did.
What was that, on Paramount Plus, I think? It came out.
Yeah.
And listen, the trailer was hitting.
It was bomb. It was a bomb.
We about to do this action. We about to do this and the Matrix type of one. I'm sitting here like, yo, I can't wait. And then the critic senses started tingling. Why ain't y'all promoting this? Why aren't we getting a screening? What is going on? This already came out and we didn't know. And then I saw the movie. Hot garbage juice. This was so bad. The writing literally made no sense. I don't even care. I'm sorry. I'm probably going to spoil it for some people, but it really doesn't matter because you shouldn't watch this movie.
Stop. There's no spoilers. If a movie came out 8 months ago, you're not spoiling.
Okay. That's fine.
Think of yourself as a therapist right now, man. Just unload all your grief.
I'm going to help some people. You had Chiwetel Ejiofor's character who lived for a long time, and he didn't want to live no more, right? He just wanted to kill himself and everybody in the world, whatever. He had a literal gun that would kill people, and he never used it on himself. And I'm sitting there like, why are we going through this whole process? Like, what is going on? When I tell you this was like the dumbest movie that just tried to throw stars in the place to make it sell, it was dumb. Please don't ever watch that movie. That was stupid. And if you can't tell right now, like, my biggest irritant is stupidity in movies. Like, when things don't make sense and don't add up. And that leads to my second to worst movie of the year. And it had to have been Fast 9. Oh my God. Fast and Furious is trash. And this is coming from a fan of the franchise. This is coming from someone who's watched them all the way from the beginning, who's appreciated the dynamics and the uniqueness of actual drag racing and all that stuff. And that's a huge departure today in these films. They don't even care. They want to be fictional Marvel heroes at this point, and just, when you're catching torpedoes with your bare hand, okay, like, you're on the wrong path. What are we doing here? Fast 9 was so atrocious. And even when they tried to be meta with some of the jokes, I know a lot of us was joking, like, what are they going to do next? Go to space? And then they actually did it. It's like, this.
I was like, please don't forget they took a car and put a rocket on top of it.
What I don't like about this is the fact that, like, it's one thing to not take yourself seriously, but they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, we laugh at them, but they think that this is actual fan service. And I'm like, no, this is ridiculousness. Like, you've defied the rules of gravity every single time. Not even gravity, all physics. Like, nothing makes sense in these movies. And it's just beyond any level of credulity. And I'm just, it hurts my head just thinking about Fast 9.
So give us number one, because
number one is got to be Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Hot garbage as well. There's nothing redeemable in this movie. I cannot stand the fact that they would take, again, good talent. You got Woody Harrelson, Naomi Harris, who is great, by the way, but what the hell was she doing in this movie? She was doing her Calypso impression from, Pirates of the Caribbean. The plot didn't make sense. There were literal plot holes in the movie. The editing was it was garbage. They had scenes in the movie that, and it wasn't just me. Other people in my own screening was like, what just happened with that? What's up with his eye? What is it? I had to go do extra research just to figure out what the hell they were talking about with the Wahlberg brother. And it's a bad movie. It's a terrible, terrible bad movie. And I know people like certain types of comedy, but I'm like, this is one of those movies where I need people to understand that it's okay to like bad movies, but it's not okay to call them good movies just because you like them. You can like bad movies. The two can exist.
So E, how do you feel after that, man? Did you feel like you unburdened yourself?
No.
He said no.
I could go on, but I don't want to hog the show.
You see how I unloaded when it was my turn? I'm saying this is kind of therapeutic for me. You got to let it out.
It's just re-triggered me. That's all.
I'm sorry.
Hey, E, I want to thank you, E, for allowing me to like bad movies, because a couple of the movies that you mentioned I kind of like, but yes, they were bad movies.
You can acknowledge that, right? And that's fine. That's fine. I got no problem with that.
That's what I'm saying. The Melissa McCarthy, Octavia Spencer movie was bad, but I liked it. Yeah.
See, I like bad movies too. Hey, I like Mortal Kombat. It's a bad movie, but I liked it. I just went down. It was just like, whoop.
All right, Charles, what you got?
Wow, I don't even know where to go. Gee whiz. Okay, we talked about expectations and how sometimes expectations get disappointed when we go to these movies or we see these movies. So number 5 for me, I think it was an honorable mention for someone, but Coming to America, come on. I was hurt by seeing this movie being done. Everything about it just betrayed everything that was great about the original film. And I've said over and over again, if Eddie Murphy needs some money, he can go fund me. We'll send him some money to be happy, but he did not have to go make this film. And I know, let it go. Just let's stay with one. We would have been just fine with only having one Coming to America, not a Coming to America. So I thought the story was terrible, and I thought the whole explanation of how he had a child was just ridiculous. It just stunk to high heaven, and I was sad that it was ever made. That's just how I felt after watching it. And however, as far as disappointing movies, this movie I wanted to be bad, and it made me happy that it was bad. And I'm talking about seeing LeBron James step into the role that Michael Jordan may have done poorly, and he did it just as badly. And we only have one bad Space Jam. We have Space Jam 2, which is just as bad as, maybe even worse than the original. Don Cheadle, come on, man. You got Marvel money, man. Come on, don't do this to yourself, brother. There's no reason why you're making a movie about a sequel to a bad movie is a bad movie sequel. So you've done it again. And on top of the fact, they cut my man Pepe out. You know, I'm a big Pepe Le Pew fan, and for some cancel culture came for Pepe, and they had to cut him out of the movie. I said you should have stuck to your guns and put him in. So I was happy to see that it was a stinker, and it was a stinker. Now, there's this other movie that Amy Adams did. I don't know if any of you saw this one, called The Woman in the Window, which is like another adaptation of Rear Window, that classic Hitchcock tale, where Amy Adams is this agoraphobic woman. She can't get out of her house. She thinks she's seen a murder across the street, and she sends her live-in friend over to find out what's going on. And all the whole time we're like this. I've seen this before. It was better before. It was more believable before. Why am I going through this again? And it just made no sense again. The editing was horrible. The soundtrack was horrible. There was no suspense. I mean, this is a suspense film, but the whole time it felt like a comedy because I'm laughing because everything is so stupid. It was no suspense whatsoever in the film, and I wished that they had killed Amy Adams by the time they got to the end of the film. But they did. They did. So, I'm sorry. Thunder Force. Yes, Thunder Force made my top 5 of the year because just and now I have nothing against Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer. I believe they're beautiful women, but when you put them in spandex like that, it's not that great of a sight. It's not that great of a sight. And on top of the fact that the story was terrible and the acting was terrible and everything about it was terrible. So we've spent time on it before. Now I got 2 other movies. My second to worst movie is called Music. Has anybody seen Music? Mm-hmm. Music. It was directed by Sia, and she has a cameo appearance. And we all know Sia, the musician who never likes to show her face. There's a reason why, because if she keeps putting out, this movie was just like a bunch of her videos that she did in sequence with Maddie Ziegler and what's the girl's name? Kate Hudson. Kate Hudson, who looked like Shia LaBeouf in the film with a buzz cut, and I mean, because he's been in some of her videos, but it just keeps going from video to video to video and incoherent, nonsensical. Maddie Ziegler plays a girl who's autistic, and she's got this. It's very, and I not to say anything about the autistic community, but she has this real annoying that she does throughout the story that I'm like, I can't watch this. This is not good to look at. And then all of a sudden, everything becomes bright and beautiful in this world that she's in, where there's music and everything going on. And Maddie Ziegler rebounds well when she goes into West Side Story playing Velma. But in this one, she is not very good. And I was like, I felt like I was getting a tick just by watching her doing the ticks in the film. The acting was bad. The editing was bad. The music, the first song was good, but every song after that was like, come on, geez. It just was a terrible Sia video, one after one after one after one after one. So no, don't go see Music because you will hate Music. Yeah. And my top film, Rob Morgan has done some really great things this year. He did The Unforgivable with Sandra Bullock. He's done Don't Look Up, but he did another movie earlier in the year called Steps. And in Steps, he plays a guy who gets robbed one night and shot. He becomes addicted to pills and alcohol, gets in a fight with his pregnant girlfriend, who ends up leaving him. And now he's on the streets. And this pastor comes and takes him up and helps him up. And he becomes a home healthcare aide and ends up becoming the healthcare aide for the guy who shot him. Now, I'm sure that sounds like a great storyline to you. and it probably would have been in another film. But Shaquille O'Neal is the executive producer on this film. That these two guys, Jay Hernandez and I forgot the two guys who directed this film. They have no direction. Nobody can act in this film except for Rob Morgan. The editing, I mean, when I say it's bad editing, it literally jumps from here to here. A guy's on this centered 1 second here, next second he's on this side of the screen. I'm like, dude, what happened there? Could you have made that a little less seamless? It was a horrible movie to watch. It made me appreciate how hard Rob Morgan worked in this film to actually make it seem like he was credible, but everything underneath him just fell apart. There's no reason. I mean, it could have been great. It should have been great. Maybe if there was another director and some real actors, it might have been great. But this thing was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Not just 2021, in my life. I'm sorry, Rob. And I got love for you, man, because you're right here from my hometown, DC. But this was bad. That was bad.
All right. So before I get out of here, I'm going to go back around and everybody just read off their worst five so we can make sure we have a documented record. And before we do that, I'm going to throw a bonus movie in that Charles reminded me of that I should have put on somewhere on my list. Did anybody see Annette?
Oh, yeah.
Annette is the rare movie that starts off that had like a really opening song that I thought really worked. I think the name of the song was So Shall We Start? And you're going, oh man, we're about to watch something really, really cool here. And then much like a guy that gets in the car with no directions on a dark night on a winding road, the movie just careened off the side of a mountain. It was like a disaster. I remember I got to the end. I went, how did we get here? I mean, we started off way over here in a really pleasant place. But the film is a story of a high-profile relationship between an opera singer played by Marion Cotillard, I think that's her name.
Cotillard.
Yes, and Adam Driver, who plays a caustic stand-up comedian, and how their relationship changes once they have this child named Annette. And so I wanted to put that in as the bonus film. And despite the fact that I'm reading online, it has 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, the fact that it's an awards contender that only boasts awards from the Florida Film Critics Association and nobody else tells me all I need to know about how bad this movie is. Y'all were the only ones that thought that movie had some merit. Just the people in Florida. And you know who you are because I'm sure you're watching us right now. So let me go back around real quick because we're running out of time. My bottom five this year, of course, were, and let me cue it up. I had Thunder Force, Gunpowder Milkshake, Old, Queen Pins, and Red Rocket. You had, Lonita?
I had Respect, A Glitch in the Matrix, The King's Man, and Mortal Kombat, and then Matrix Resurrection.
You didn't like anything that had Matrix in it, made your list this year. E, what did you have your bottom five?
I had The Little Things, Malignant, Infinite, Fast 9, and Venom 2.
Wow. Yeah, anything that had a single name or maybe two made your list. Charles Kirkland?
Coming to America, Space Jam 2, The Woman in the Window, Music, Thunder Force, and Steps. I think that's 6.
Yeah, right. But I'll just say on behalf of everybody that's watching, all these movies we just named, I mean, you don't have to believe us. Y'all can watch them. You've been warned. We spent an hour telling you not to watch these movies. And if you think those movies that I threw in Annette, let me give you one from like a year or two ago, LaQuisha. Look that one up. Nobody seen LaQuisha?
I saw LaQuisha. I watched that whole thing.
I'm so sorry.
I watched Laquisha just because you said it was horrible, so I had to watch it, and it is horrible. It is horrible.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Horrible.
And if you want a historically bad movie, I watched Perfume from 1991 the other night. I'm not gonna say anything. Just Google it. Go online and Google Perfume 1981, and just watch maybe the first 10, 15 minutes. That'll give you all you need to know about that.
You can smell the odor from here.
Movies for a minute, bro. I can give you some good ones. Just rattle them off. Teeth, Fat Beach, Caligula. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of bad movies. Oh,
Red Rocket is not a bad movie.
Whatever, man. What's dude's name that did Tree of Life? Did Badlands?
Terrence Malick.
Terrence Malick has like a 4-pack. You know, anything from like 2010 to now, just sandwich them all together. All of those are bad. A Night of Cups, like all of those movies are bad. Like not a good one in the bunch. So anybody have any parting comments on any other films that you may have left out before we get out of here?
I was just going to agree on the little things. And then for me, the to add insult to injury was I opened up my mailbox one day and I got a package from the little things and I opened it up and it's the hair clip. I said,
they tried it.
This is the worst thing to send a woman.
What was the movie? Oh, it was Power the Dog. That they sent the keychain that looked like a noose. Did anybody get that one?
Yeah, I purposely didn't touch it.
I refused to open the bag just because I saw the movie.
You can touch stuff, just don't have a cut on your hand. That's all. You can touch it.
Our daughter said, "Oh, Mama, can I have this?" I said, "You can't have that. Don't touch it.
Right.
You can't have
I tossed it out.
All right, man.
I kept the flower though. I kept the little flower.
The flower too. All right. So and Charles, we should do another show because a colleague of ours was rating the FYC gifts and like which studio did the best. I said we could do that show, but I want to keep getting stuff. So I'm not gonna out anybody. Let's just say, watch this. Let me just say that as a guy that's been doing this for a minute, the studio that historically usually wins the FYC, they came in third this year. So for people on this call, you are on this line, you know what I'm talking about. They came in third this year. There was a surprise winner because there was some stuff that showed up at my house on Christmas Eve. You know who you are.
Yes. Look,
I said I will be watching.
Places were aghast.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What's this? Yes, sir. You win this year. You rock NYC, baby. But on behalf of Lonita Cook, my brother E, and Charles Kirkland, man, I want to thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun this year. We're 15 episodes away from our 500th episode, which we're going to do something really, really crazy. We've been doing this podcast. Next year, we'll be going into year 13. Damn. We've been at this for a minute. So I want to thank you guys. And as we tell people every week, please see something good at the movies. For real. Nothing on this show is stuff you should watch. Nothing we've talked about for the last 60 minutes should be anything you want to watch. And if you do watch it and you don't like it, we tried to tell you. That's all I can tell you. So on behalf of all these amazing Critics' Choice Association members who I would have seen in a couple of weeks, but now I'm probably going to have to wait 2 months because we're going to have to reschedule this year's Critics' Choice Awards, man. I wish all of you guys a safe, prosperous, happy new year. And just remember, the crime is real. And I think y'all should just protect your necks like Wu-Tang said. And I'll see you guys on the other side, man. You guys enjoy. Have a wonderful holiday, man. And thank you guys for the day, man. It was absolutely great. Charles 485 is a wrap. Onwards and upwards. See you guys in 2022. You guys take care, man.
Thank you.
All right. All right.